Thank you for being here today. I mean, I'm so excited to have you. And whenever trying to find some good and good people and artists, you're the one of them, and I really love to invite you in this conversation.
That really means a lot. I feel really honored to
Yeah,
be
thank
asked
you,
to do
thank
this. I really
you.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to have a conversation with you today. Before we start, could you introduce yourself, a little short sentence?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm Ryan Suleiman. I live in Boston. I'm teaching at Berklee College of Music. Originally, I'm from Sacramento, California. Did my PhD at UC Davis, um, where I studied composition and theory, and I'm a composer.
Great, thank you. Welcome. So, we had some very good meeting at Boston, and we have a little our first conversation was at BU, right? Right after your presentation.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So I remember you talked about your music composition and string theory and stuff like that. And since then, it's kind of taught me and you're inspired me to get connected with you. So since then, it's really grateful to have you as a colleague and friends and composer, and means a lot.
Yeah, well, same. Likewise, I was really happy that for that opportunity to
Yeah.
meet you as well and get to know you and your music a little bit too.
Yeah. So, since I was preparing for this, conversation, and I was curious about your childhood, and how did you grow up, and what was your inspiration for being a music composer and things like that. Would you,
Yeah,
yeah, talk about a little bit about that?
yeah, sure. My childhood, I mean, my parents both are not from musical backgrounds. So I don't have any
Ah,
like artistic or even art, like so no artistic music background at all from my family.
mm-hmm,
Um, but like when I was 9 or 10, my parents decided that I should take piano lessons because it's
mm-hmm,
something thought is important, and they never really got to do that when they were kids. So I took piano lessons, and then I learned like what music theory is basically.
mm-hmm,
And when I was 13, and I learned like C major chord, F major chord, G major chord,
mm-hmm,
and after that I wrote my first composition with those chords.
mm-hmm.
So like I got interested in composition early on, mainly because of just learning the theory and learning that like all these notes, there's like a kind of a system behind them, and like I got really interested in that. So I wrote like a lot of kind of fake Mozart sounding pieces in my
Uh-huh.
teenage years. Like I loved the movie Amadeus and that sort of thing. And then like as I got a little bit older, like started taking composition lessons at my local university privately. And I was introduced to other like more modern music. And in Sacramento, there's a festival that's still going called Festival of New American Music. And as a teenager, I would go to see like concerts in that festival, and that was like really great exposure for new
That's
music for me.
great.
And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so yeah, and from there I decided to major in composition, and that's it. Here I am.
I see. I see. Wow. So, from a different point of view of life in California, so growing up with Lebanese and Mid Eastern parents in California, how did you think that cultural blend show up in your music, if at all?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely like I'd say definitely like it had a big influence on my worldview. There's no question about
Mm.
that. And like being in like my parents coming from really like kind of almost opposite cultures,
Hmm.
like Arab culture is very it's kind of like whatever Midwestern culture is, it's like the opposite,
Hmm.
like people like in Arab culture, like you're supposed to really insist that hey, here's some food, like eat this, you need to eat this. And in
Eh.
Midwestern culture, that's considered very rude, right?
Ah,
So those kind of like that's something I learned like early on about how like sort of the same thing can be polite in one
Mm-hmm.
culture and not polite in another culture.
Mm.
But I think musically, like, I don't know if there's like a really outward way that it's manifested in my music. I've written pieces that are inspired by like I have a piece that's inspired by a book by Ghassan Kanafani,
Mm.
Men in the Sun, and that's talks about the Nakba in Palestine. And I've worked with some poems from Gibran Khalil Gibran, who's like a Lebanese American poet that probably a lot of people know from the Prophet. Um, and right now I'm working on a set of songs by a French Syrian poet named Maram El-Masri.
Ah,
So like I'm kind of connecting a little bit like to like my
right.
Arab roots through poetry and other things. I think musically like I love like Arabic music, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I don't know like it's hard for me to like it's such a complex and like beautiful system. I don't know if I can really I feel it's way too intimidated to actually work with it.
I
Um,
see.
but then like yeah, I don't know. I mean, my mom didn't really it wasn't like we listened to country music that much either. So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know what that side of that influencing my music, but
I
yeah,
see. I see.
that's about it.
So you mostly uh educated in Western culture in like
Yeah, yeah.
American.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, great. I see. So I have more questions about your work and teaching and stuff. Um, my next question was, so you just mentioned that your work style connected with some poet and like dream theory, as you mentioned a long time before. So one of the like it just caught me my eyes. It said your work has been described as having both accessibility and strengthness. How
Mhm.
did you navigate that balance when you were composing?
Yeah, I was really happy for that review. That was really great because that was like,
Thank
yes,
you.
that's what I'm going for.
Nice.
So it was nice for someone to say that. But I mean, I think, well, like this is a little bit related to like my studying of Unsuk Chin's music also, but like
Mm,
this sense of like dreaminess or dream
mhm,
logic, like surreal kind of quality of music
mm,
that I think her music has a lot of. I hear it in the music of Takemitsu a little bit as well.
mm,
Um, Ligeti, and even like specifically like this might seem like a weird random reference, but like the second movement of Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto,
mhm,
where it's like a slow movement and it's like this it's just a back like the strings are just playing in unison these almost like it's almost like recitative
mm,
actually
mm,
like and there's this kind of like this odd back and forth between the soloist and the strings speaking as just one voice
mhm,
that felt I don't know why but that movement to me feels really like the placement of it and just the kind of quality of it or the rhetoric of it feels very surreal and dreamlike
mm,
or like the spectral composers who like the
mhm,
way that they have these like such gradual, slow transitions of just a single chord, like that feels very it's like how do you do that? It's really
mm,
like wow, we had this one sound and then 20 minutes later there's like this flute, this other sound, like
right.
I don't know, it's those kind of things are really inspiring to me, music. And then like but also like the accessible side of things, I think like for me, it just comes down to like really trying to write music that I actually like,
Mhm,
that I actually want to listen to, instead of trying to impress like certain professors or certain new music circles, so to speak, right? Like trying not to feel pressured to write to conform to like what's supposed to be academic or a certain idea. Like, and I value like so-called academic music, like,
mm,
but I think yeah, just really seriously listening to music that I like or trying to write music that I want to hear. And
right.
I think I'm happy that in most cases, like people have found that to be accessible. So
Mm,
I think
right.
that's all I can say
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's really a important point of view as a composer, and maybe many young composers may get that what you're trying to say, and I mean like a lesson. So, more curious about your, composition and your connection to ecological themes in your music. When did your environmental concerns start finding their way into your compositions?
Yeah, so that goes back to like when I basically first started composing. I mean, like as a
Ah,
teenager, like we lived by the American River, so I had access
mm-hmm,
to like a river trail that I would walk
mm,
on all the time, just to kind of clear my thoughts and then sort of get think about music, get ideas for pieces.
mm,
That's a really important like presence for me.
mm-hmm,
And it was so I was always inspired by nature as like many composers, right? As a source of, artistic inspiration. But it was probably for me like during when the droughts in California started to get really bad
mm-hmm,
that I mean the issue of climate change and environmental collapse felt
mm-hmm,
very close to home. Of course
mm-hmm,
I knew before that like climate change is happening. But I think when those droughts were happening, this was probably like 2013, 2014. When those droughts were happening, then it really felt like, oh, this is actually a lot worse than we had thought before. And if I'm somebody who cares about nature and like values nature, then I cannot ignore what's happening to nature. Like I think like for artists, look we're we have to look at the world as it is, which means yeah, there's a lot of beauty, but there's a lot of like ugliness and fear as well. So I don't think it's right to focus on just the beauty, and it's not right to focus on just
mm,
the dread, you know.
mm,
We have to really like take in everything.
mm,
So that's what I'm thinking behind that. So that's a
mm.
complex it's a complex thing, but that's what I'm trying to
Right,
do.
right, right. That's kind of deep inspiration for your composition, I guess. And
Yeah.
you giving me another a perspective to understand your music and how to approach your music is very important, I guess. So wow, okay. So and also you've talked about exploring the emotional paradoxes more than extenses. Maybe it's related to this
Yeah.
conversation. What
Yeah.
does that phrase means to you in practical terms when you're creating music?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, uh, yeah, it is like this idea of like beauty and dread, right? That is like a paradox thing. And I think for me, like, what has helped, because I mean, the world that we live in is really beautiful, right? There's
Mm,
so much, just to be alive is a miracle, and to have friends and to have you and I having this conversation, this friendship, like everything is like a miracle. But also, there's a lot of scary things. Like as a
mm,
species, we might not even be around in the next few hundred years, right? I mean, there's
mm,
actually like a very like significant possibility of that, right? So that's a kind of existential question that I think composers are really not haven't had to deal with in the past,
mm,
as to the extent that we do now. I mean, of course, World War II and all these kind of events, they certainly felt like the end of the world for the
mm.
people living through them, and they turned out
Right,
not to be. So I don't know.
right,
It's a very complex philosophical thing. Like even people who are experts in this topic don't know the answer, right? And I'm just a
right.
composer, but like I guess for me, like trying to capture that feeling of dread and beauty at the same time, that is just part of being a human experience. Like,
Mm-hmm,
and especially now in the time of, ecological collapse, political instability, AI, all this other concerns
right,
that we have, right?
right.
Um, and that is still beautiful. Like,
Mm,
so that's what I'm trying to capture. And then musically, like, there are a few different ways I've tried to approach this or work on this
mm-hmm,
question. One of them is, I mean, I've written pieces that are just straight up about
mm,
drought, for example,
mm-hmm,
or pieces that deal with like the more um, like a mystical side of nature, like the idea of like of like kind of a little bit inspired by like animism or
mm-hmm,
Shintoism,
mm-hmm,
um, but um, but also like in my piano concerto, which was also part of my dissertation, like they're kind of like sketches of um, the world of like human experience, but within them there are like these clock strikes that
mm-hmm,
happen that are sort of like evoking a countdown to the
mm-hmm,
end, like to the
mm-hmm.
apocalypse.
Right.
And those are like things that interrupt. I did this in my piano concerto, and I did this in a recent piece that I wrote called Meditations.
Mm-hmm.
That was for like trio and electronics, and like
Oh,
in
nice.
those pieces, there are like they both use this like idea of a parallel narrative, this
Mm.
clock strike, which for me creates both like kind of interesting, or the idea is to create an interesting like feeling of like breaking the rules of the piece. So that's like the
Mm-hmm.
dream logic aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but then also to it's basically like to evoke the experience that we all have, which is we go about our day trying to just live normal life, enjoy things, and then you realize, oh wait, we might as a, we have there are all these threats to us as a species and as a
Mm-hmm.
society, right? Which is everybody's experience, right? So yeah, but again, I think this question of nature, like, it's an endlessly complex topic, and there's so many cultural associations with it as well, and scientific ones and artistic ones. And so, like, I've sort of taken many different approaches to this question, and like,
Mm-hmm.
even probably in the last, like, it's something I approach in my music from time to time. It's definitely not the only topic that I try to explore in my music,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's always something I've come back to in different ways. And this is part of
Mm.
the reason I started that podcast also, is because I was really interested in like obviously I'm not like basically any musician has thought about music and nature at least a little bit or a
Mm.
lot, you know. So I was really, really interested to learn from other musicians
Mm-hmm.
what their feeling was about the connection between music and nature. And so I
Right.
learned a lot in that process too.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, during conversation, even now, I'm learning, a lot from you, and meeting, meaningful people, and people who are around you is really inspired to, think different, create different, So I totally agree. Then I have a different curiosity of uh in a time. So how did you how did the experience of us isolation during recent years, like, pandemic, affect your
Yeah.
compositional process or the themes you were drawn to explore?
Yeah, that's also a really interesting question. I think for me, like, it's something like, uh, I think, I mean, all of us, the pandemic, I always say, like, it was stressful and for everybody, right? Not
Right.
everyone equally, of course. Some people
Mm.
suffered more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have
Mm-hmm.
much more serious problem than others. But all of us were experiencing kind of collective trauma, right?
Mm.
To great extent or lesser extent, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I certainly felt that for me, it was like the social isolation and like not being able to attend concerts, worrying about my family, you know, like um, so all of these things, and I think it led, for whatever reason, it led to my music being kind of a more almost inward or introspective, like
Mm.
and my music started to become like quieter and more like meditative, I think.
Mm.
And the first piece like this was a piece I wrote for Left Coast Chamber
Mm-hmm.
Ensemble called The
Mm-hmm.
Robin, and that was the one that was based on the Gibran poem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that poem, I think, captured really, at least as of course, you know, he lived in like the early 20th century, but like
Mm-hmm.
um, this, but like the poem for me captured very well like this feeling of like isolation, like it's about a bird that wants to be free,
Mm.
um, and he imagines the speaker imagines himself as this bird who can fly and be free of worries and anxieties. Like,
Mm.
so for me, the piece was a kind of serving as a kind of like almost a balm for
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and many pieces after that, I experimented with that like quality of like music as creating a space for almost meditation and yeah, and kind of just being with one's thoughts and like peace, you know, like as a function of a piece of music. And for me, like composing it also. Um,
Right.
I've started in recent years to kind of, I don't know, you know how it is, like your style, you go through these different things, and sometimes I felt actually very like self-conscious about it for a long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like my music headed in a direction that I didn't really necessarily want it to go,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't really help it, you know?
Right.
Uh, so it was weird. Like I'm maybe starting to come back to a more extroverted style. I'm definitely now like you feel like you're older. Like I'm gonna be 35 soon. Like, and so it's like I don't know. I'm not like someone in my early 20s anymore. Like, but I'm still discovering, and it's not like, oh, I'm adult now. Everything's like I mean, I am adult, but like everything is stable now. No, it's never stable. You're
Yeah.
always like kind of and that's humbling, I think, because you feel
Mm,
like, oh, we both have doctorates, we're like
yeah.
professionals and we're supposed to know everything, but like, and have ourselves figured out, but it's not true at all. Like, I'm learning that, and I have to like be humble about that. I'd actually like to know, like, you could talk a little bit about like, did you have the experience? Did your music change at all or not?
I think I did.
Yeah, yeah,
But especially the timing, so coincidence, with where I start my, doctorate
sure,
program.
sure,
So everything, the situation I situated that like big, huge shift of my musical thinking and approach and things like that. So um, I think I become more logical with my
mm,
music. Before I'm more like intuitive, more emotional, and more,
yeah,
dramatic. But
yeah,
I was going through that time. I think I try to think more logical with the music, and I really wanted to put all this logic into, sound what I want to create it. So that's that's the big methodology of my music composition, changes at the time, and still now I resonate that creating process. So I think it's good to me to have a totally different way to think of the sound, think of this inspiration, creative environment, not even just daily lives. I got inspired by many things like you, and even like more thinking of art and architectural
mm,
things like that. And yeah, so I think most of artists, I guess, having this difficulty, we we inspire and we experience something different, right? So
yeah,
that really gives you like different aspects of life and art, I think. So
yeah,
yeah, I was changed, yeah, in a way to make music. So
yeah.
it's tough and hard to you know uh, spend the time, but at the same time, as a composer, I think it's meaningful time to uh, you know um, uh, live the time, you know where when everybody has the same problem. I think that's kind of very special and different,
Mm,
and it's really like uh, different time period I am living in. So I think try to be positive, and try
yeah,
to be more think clearly and fresh. So that
yeah,
gives me more I think growth, another way of growing, as a composer and human being. So that's
yeah,
another way to being there, and thankful to have the difficulty, I think. So yeah. Thank you for
yeah,
asking me.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so hearing your story and different, other people, it's really inspiring. So yeah, so we lived in very unique time, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah. Going back to your composition process and philosophy, I was curious about your inspiration of Unsuk Chin. What specifically about Unsuk Chin's approaches to composition continues to influence your thinking about music?
Yeah, yeah. So her, like, I mean, I really appreciate and enjoy all of her music, but her cello concerto was for
Mm,
me like my favorite piece of hers. Like all of her music is so, I mean, speaking of like logic and rigor, like she's so rigorous, and she takes so long to compose her pieces, spends so much
mm,
time, is so intense. And like the cello concerto for me, like it had that kind of in a way like this intellectual and very dreamy, surreal quality, but it was
mm,
also very dramatic too. in a way that I think was a little bit maybe different from some of her other pieces. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there are even moments where I don't know how well you know that particular piece, the cello concerto, but like,
Right.
it's like it has this the third movement is like almost like Bruckner or something, or like
Mm,
this slow, this like late romantic sound to it, which is very weird, but it's still within like this kind of like her own modern language as well. So
mm,
I just the piece, it's very expressive,
mm-hmm.
and like for my project, I wanted to write a concerto for piano,
Ah,
which I did. Like, so that was the other part of my dissertation, and like
mm,
the research part, the essay sort of analysis portion, I decided to study this piece. And like what I really also loved about the concerto is like it's a real concerto, like it's
mm,
virtuosic.
mm,
So I think there's a lot of concertos in the 20th century and 21st century where I feel like, I mean, I respect the approach, but like I think sometimes composers don't really want to write a concerto in the sense of like, like the 19th century concertos, the soloist is like the hero, and it's very dramatic and virtuosic, right? Whereas even in like some of like her piano concerto, not yeah, her piano concerto a little bit like this, where she has this like super instrument idea where like
mm,
she combines the different players and the soloist, and they're sort of together one unit, which is a really
mm,
beautiful sound. But
mm-hmm.
for me, like it lacks that kind of dramatic star element that like I think is actually really exciting about watching a concerto
Mm,
in a live performance. And I think the cello concerto actually really does have that like star element to it.
mm,
But
I
it's
see.
but it's also such a modern piece and so fresh, and like and the form, like I have no idea what's happening with the form, like so
Mm,
like I just really sit down for a long time and try and figure out like how the piece is flowing and progressing through time, and like the fact that it was just like listening to the piece, I don't, you know, like I think in the best kind of piece, we don't care about the form that much. We're just enjoying the piece. If
right.
I'm noticing the form, then it means something might it's probably wrong. Like I mean, I'm into criticism mode. But with her music, it's not like that at all. Like you're just in the moment. But
Mm,
then, so I guess it's like, so again, I think like dream logic, surreal
mm-hmm.
are the words that come to mind when I think of that piece, and her other
Mm,
music too, but especially this piece. Like there's like, for example, in that third movement, there's like sort of a theme. It's almost like a theme of variations, but not really. There's not like a clear theme, but you can hear something that sounds like a theme.
mm,
She has this like it's this rich, lush, like very sort of like I don't know, precise orchestration, complex. But then
mm,
there's a moment where she just has like three trumpets playing these
mm,
chords.
mm,
Uh, so like, which feels like it was inevitable, but it came out of nowhere. But maybe it almost feels like some kind of quotation, but
mm,
of some other piece. But I don't think it is. Like so. I think these things, examples of these things in these pieces, where like it makes me question
mm,
what is happening, and like I'm not
mm-hmm.
sure. I can't identify something. I feel a little bit disoriented, but in like a very pleasurable way.
Mm.
Like that's the thing that really draws me to that piece. It really feels
Ah,
like a discovery into a
mm-hmm.
new world that is like so sprawling and full of all these surprises.
Right.
Um, and that's like, and actually in a weird way, that's sometimes rare. It's rare to encounter a piece like that.
Mm,
Um, and I really just wanted to try and learn as much as possible from that. Speaking of accessible and strange, I
right.
think that piece for me like is really that. It's so
Mm,
modern and weird, like you can with her pieces you can hear like it makes sense that she studied with Ligeti.
mm,
But her music doesn't sound like Ligeti. But
mm,
there's some kind of weird element about it that's hard to
mm.
describe that I think she probably got a little bit from Ligeti.
Got you. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you met Unsuk Chin?
No, I didn't. I was trying to. Part of the dissertation was like interviews with
Uh-huh.
different people. Like I
Uh-huh.
interviewed Alvin Gerhardt, who was a
Uh-huh.
soloist, and I did some interviews with some conductors.
Mm-hmm.
I was in touch with her husband, who was trying to like maybe set up an interview, but
Right.
I think it just, she was very like, she was, happy that I was doing the project, but I think
Right.
her schedule was too busy, and I think she's
Right.
known to be a little bit of a reclusive person also, so maybe prefers not to do too many of
Mm,
these
I
things.
see. I
But
see. Gotcha.
yeah.
Ah, okay.
Did you get to meet her?
No,
No.
but
Okay.
some of my friends they did.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, everybody's who met her say the very similar thing, and they got inspired so much and learn a lot.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I would love to meet her if I have a chance to,
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
thing that I probably the biggest takeaway that I had about, or like one of the biggest takeaways is like that piece is notoriously difficult for cello. Like there's only maybe
Yeah.
a handful of people in the world who can play it
Right.
at all, and it's actually very awkward for the instrument also. But
Mm-hmm.
like, but the players all love the piece, even though it
Mm.
has difficulties. They love the piece.
Right.
They put it at the
Right.
level of like "Do to You" and
Mm-hmm.
Dvorak and all
Right.
these great cello concertos. They respect her so much. And
Mm.
it made me realize like that level of virtuosity that she demands of the players, she
Mm-hmm.
puts that same pressure on herself as a composer.
Right.
That's what I
Right.
learned from studying the piece and from talking to people is that that level, the piece is almost unreasonable, but
Mm.
also like the level of the pressure and the kind of rigor that she puts on herself is the
Mm-hmm.
same. So that's what I learned at the end of the whole thing.
I see. Got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. That's so true. As a composer, we have so much pressures to
Yeah.
create beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
So you often mention the dream theory and stuff, and maybe our audiences, try to understand what it is. And would you explain a little bit about that before
Yeah, like
before going to next question?
yeah, like I guess I don't know, like there's many, as you know, there are many like levels we could talk about. So like on
Yeah.
the basic level, like what I mentioned when I was a kid and I learned like what is music theory, like that means like what are chords or scales or what are sort of like the very basic, those are like fundamental building blocks of
Uh-huh.
music, right? But then you and I, of course, we study like theory and composition at, like doctoral level and like
Mm,
like at that point, once you learn all these fundamentals of what are chords and how do you make like a melody is
mm,
made of a scale basically, and these kind of like building blocks of what makes a musical piece, form and all
mm,
those stuff. Um, Once you get those are just sort of like those are the basics. Then analysis is almost like real analysis, not just identifying chords, but analysis is asking like what are the effects of a piece, kind of like literature analysis, like
mm,
what are the recurring themes, how does the composer generate interest,
mm,
what are like how do all the parts connect and make like a compelling unified whole that has variety, like answering those questions about like what makes a piece quote unquote work
mm,
and how do we hear it. Those are kind of like in a way, I guess that's more maybe more analysis than theory, but it's
mhm,
related to music theory too, the kind of more
mm,
nuts and bolts technical aspects.
mm.
Yeah.
Great. So your music has been described as floating between dream and dread. How do you
Mhm.
work with darker emotions while still creating something beautiful?
Yeah. Um, in a way, I think there's a really great quote from like Lachenmann. He was giving
Hmm.
some interview and he mentions like somebody asked him about something like this, and I really like
Mm,
what he said. His response
mm,
was like something like even Beethoven when he was writing like the Funeral March of the Third
mm,
Symphony. This really like really deeply sad and depressing, but really also beautiful, piece, slow movement of the Third Symphony.
mhm,
Like he's, from Lachenmann's perspective, like Beethoven was also joyful while he was writing it. Meaning that like the act of creation has to be joyful in a certain way, even if the emotions or the kind of subject matter is difficult,
mhm,
you know? Because if we're really depressed, if we're actually depressed, then we can't write, you
mm,
know? I mean, yeah, of course, there are examples of people channeling like tragedy and emotions into art making. But I
mm,
think the process of doing that, first of all, ideally, composers would have a healthy, balanced lifestyle, and that helps them compose, right?
right.
But in those cases where we're trying to process something difficult, it's through the music making that makes that is, that act is like almost an optimistic act, and it's an act of creating something,
Mm,
right? Um, and so, yeah, the beauty of it, I think it's like there's like a dark beauty too. In a way, I actually am finding that like writing things that are happy is more
mm,
difficult than things that
mm,
are sad.
mm,
Happy music because like and again, I'm dealing with this problem right now and like the pieces that I'm working on. It's very humbling because
mm,
I'm realizing that to write like happy music that's not cheesy is
mm,
very difficult, and
right.
it takes like so I don't know, like the dark side for many of us, I think, is actually not, I mean, music is it's always hard writing music in a way, oftentimes. But yeah, I don't know. I think just feeling emotions is like it's beautiful, even if
Mm.
it's a sad beauty, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. So sometimes do you see your composition as responding to or reflecting the current moment we're living in?
Yeah, that's also these are really good questions. Um, that's a really, I think, well, what I always, it's something I think about a lot, you know,
Mm,
because I think, I mean, again, there's like some real things happening in this world, like
mm,
all over the world, right? Oh,
right.
so many challenges, so many, you know, problems, like on a large scale, right?
Mm,
Um, and like, you know, what to do, right? Like, what do we do? Um, and I think in a way, like, um, there are many different valid approaches, and I don't think there's a right approach, of
mm,
course. You know, I don't, I think everyone has to do what they think is right. And
mm,
this is something I try to tell my students also, like, you know, I encourage them to think like, at a minimum, I think you should just think of like, what is your role or what is your place in the world? And what is your relation to everything that's happening? You know, at least think about it. Don't avoid the question. It's a
mm,
difficult question.
right.
And you may come to the conclusion that actually, like, I see all this, and my role is just to make something beautiful. That's it. I think that's totally valid. I think that just something simple like that is a totally valid response, as long as we've
Mm,
done like the kind of rigorous work of questioning and thinking of what we're doing. And for,
mm,
I mean, and of course, for some people, they may prefer to take a more direct or activist approach, and that's also fine. I think, yeah, I think for me, the question is also about impact. Like I could write a piece about this or about that or criticizing this or that, but what is it doing? Like what is it actually impacting? You know, like
mm,
I don't want to write something that would be better as just an op-ed, you know. There are people who are actual experts in politics and in environmentalism who can actually talk about those things, about policy. There
mm,
are, you know, it's funny, like actually to this point, like it's easy as an artist, I think, to question the value of what we're doing in a difficult time.
mm,
First, I will say, like, just right away, like, it has a lot of value and it's like necessary for survival. Art
mm,
making, music, especially comedy. I think comedy, most of all, is we need it to survive, right? Sorry.
mm,
Um, we uh, we need it. So I think like I had the opportunity to meet with some scientists
mm.
actually as part of a collaboration at Berkeley, who scientists
Oh,
working at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute,
oh, wow.
and yeah, and it was a really great opportunity. So we got to talk about like sort of the world and
Mm,
what you know what the impact of our work, and we were, you know, it was me and some people in the theater department, and we were describing the feeling of like what good is it to write a piece or, you know, choreograph a
mm,
number, and like how is this happening? And the funny thing is, the response from the scientists were like, well, we feel the same way sometimes. What
mm,
good is our data? No one listens. If people are not listening to our data and doing nothing, we're just here, you know, measuring the ocean, you know, and measuring like, you know, chemical levels and, you know, sea
mm,
levels and all these things. Yeah, anyway, I was really surprised to find that these scientists like had the same reaction. You don't
mm,
imagine that as an artist, right?
right.
Uh, so I think what it made me realize is like everybody just has to, everyone has their own role. Like we can't have just policymakers, just politicians, just activists,
Mm,
just artists, just scientists. Like we need
mm,
everybody, you know?
mm,
And what we're all doing has its own function. And so for
mm,
me, like for the question that I want to ask if I care about what's happening in the world is what is music actually good at doing?
mm,
Like what role does it have? And I
mm,
think definitely like a healing role is something that, you know, is really good at, right?
mm,
Music is good at. Like it can help us it can help us process emotions. It can help us explore complex philosophical questions without
mm,
providing clear answers, which
mm,
sometimes I think is good. It allows
yeah.
us a space to sit with discomfort.
Mm,
It allows us a space to just feel something, you know, like
right.
so it doesn't, so I think it's really important not to worry that like, oh, am I going to fix everything? Of course it's
Mm,
actually ridiculous to even like put to expect that one person with any whatever they're doing will be able to fix everything, right?
right.
So you really just you think of like you just sort of do what you can to make the world around you a better place, help opening the door for somebody, you know, like being there to listen to like, a student or a colleague who has a question. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
these little things make the world better,
Mm,
you know? So, and
right.
music can offer a space again, it just comes back to like, and there's a variety of different answers to this.
Mm,
Music offering a space for like, what can it do, what functions can it have for people?
right.
There's so many
Yeah.
different ones that it can have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so a few more questions about your composition. Maybe I was wondering if written about apocalyptic themes. How did you approach composing about endings or catastrophe without falling into despair?
Yeah. Um, like apocalypse,
Yeah.
right? Like, so the apocalypse, like, I mean, and again, like my thinking about this whole topic has really evolved over time,
Hmm.
just, and like over that time, I think we as a culture have also evolved too. Like, you know, in a way, like when I first started to care about, I think climate change, people started to really care about climate change. I mean, of course, there are many things that can bring the apocalypse
Mm,
besides there's AI, there's nuclear war,
mm,
there's a
yeah.
lot of different things, right? But like I think the idea of like when I first read about like this sort of something about the science of how serious of a
Mm,
situation we're in,
hmm.
then I felt at that moment my reaction was kind of like, well, we're screwed. Like, what are we gonna do? That's it. I guess it's over for us.
Mm,
Which, and those things are in a way like, it's not that that's not true,
hmm.
but it's kind of like it's a little bit of an unhelpful attitude,
Hmm.
and I think the consensus about like action on climate change now is that even if we don't like, there are all these tipping points, right, which are real things that scientists are not sure about, like points of
Mm,
no return. But in a way, that narrative is actually can be really problematic because, for
mm,
example, like if you are worried about like the Trump administration, for example, like taking away
mm,
all of these, and it's really serious, like
mm,
policies
mm,
that the administration is destroying, but
hmm.
also it's easy to look at that and just say like, well, I guess that's it. Might as well
Hmm.
give up. Every fraction of a degree of warming that we can prevent as a
Mm,
society is
mm,
going to save lives and
mm,
help us, right? So even if we don't like succeed, it's not just like black and white. It's not like
mm,
fail or pass, there are
mm,
levels. And so like
hmm.
everything matters. And on the other hand, like also just even if we are screwed, like you might as well try because
Hmm.
at least feels better than not trying,
Right.
to do something and
Mm,
to just like appreciate the world around us,
mm,
like how many people wish that they weren't born. I'm sure there are people who maybe have suffer a lot and maybe like they're suffering so much that they wish that they didn't exist. I mean, of course that's very tragic, but like no matter
right.
how bad the world is, we're still grateful for life, I think, right? I mean, and
Mm,
of course I'm speaking from a like very privileged place where my life is very comfortable, right?
hmm.
But I think most people who literally live through like serious hardship
Right.
still want to live. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So like, I guess the point is like the world is it's always worth living. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope. Yeah,
It all makes sense.
yeah,
So I discover you've created chamber orchestra. I mean, not orchestra, operas. How does working in that more intimate scale affect the stories you want to tell?
yeah. Um, so chamber opera is the only type of opera that I've been able
Mm,
to work in. So
mm,
that's all I really know.
mm,
But um, but what I love about opera is like I have sort of the story already to work with, right? Like in an instrumental piece, you have to
mm,
you're really starting from scratch, which is
mm,
fun on its own as well, but it can
mm.
be very challenging.
Right.
With opera and with other kind of like interdisciplinary arts, like dance or, working from visual art like into music, if with opera you have like a something to play off of,
Mm,
like like there's sort of imagery that's evoked by like a really interesting story or libretto,
mm,
and like that, that gives me a lot of like um, ideas for the sound world. The sound world is kind of what I hear first when I'm thinking of like a libretto or a story. I
mm,
hear the atmosphere, right?
Mm,
And then after I kind of have almost the harmonic or textural language that in
mm,
mind, like the
mm,
sort of vibe, then I'm thinking like it's really theater, right?
mm-hmm,
Like opera is theater, and so the music has to just be there in service of the story, right?
mm,
And the word and the setting, like I'm not here to show off my music, and I think there's a lot of music, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's a lot
yeah.
of music, I think, that where in a way like the point of the music is to show off the skill of the composer, and
Mm,
I
right.
really hate that.
Mm,
And I mean, like the my goal as a composer is to just do whatever, to be in service of the story and to make it better, to
mm,
elevate it and to add to it, to help, to think of like thinking of the relationship between like what the characters are saying, how they would say it in a singing way, and like how the orchestra around them would respond, or what kind of a feeling they would evoke. Am I trying to reinforce the feeling, or maybe I want
mm,
to set it in like an ironic way,
mm-hmm,
where the music is going against what they're saying, and there's this like
mm,
tension. So that
mm,
like thinking about that like is really interesting for me, and really different from composing like a
right,
instrumental piece with no text to it. There's all
right.
this stuff that you're thinking of, like really now like a text that exists and how the music is relating to that.
Mm, right. Wow. So are you working on an opera now?
Yeah, well, I have an opera that's called The School for Girls Who Lost Everything in the Fire, and that's
Uh-huh.
with a friend of mine, Christina Frias, who is based
Mm-hmm.
in San Francisco. We
Mm.
met at UC Davis. We were both students there.
Ah.
Um,
Is there any collaboration in Boston?
not for opera,
Not
but I am
opera.
working, but I would love to though. Yeah, there's a few opera groups in here that I would love to work with, but not as of yet.
I
But I am
see.
working with this art song that I was telling you about these poems by Maram
Ah.
El Masri. That's
Ah.
that's a commission from Dana Varga, who I don't
Uh-huh.
know if you know her, but
Mhm.
she just wants these art songs, but
Okay.
she happens to be the founder of Mass Opera, which is a group in Boston that does a lot of like modern opera. So
Right.
maybe
Um,
someday that will be an opportunity for something, I hope.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So you based in Boston now. I'm curious what drew you to Boston. How has the city shaped your, creative process as a composer?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first time I came to Boston was
Uh-huh.
maybe 8 years ago. I went
Uh-huh.
to Sick Puppy, as it's called. You probably know it. It's a
Ah.
Summer Institute of Contemporary Performance
Ah.
Practice at New England Conservatory. And I was living in California at the time. It was my
Mm.
first time in Boston. I really loved the city, and like
Mm.
that was such a cool festival that like, and I was really excited when we moved here about that. I mean, it's not the reason I moved here, but when we moved
Mm.
here, I happened to think like, well, in summer I can go to this thing, and then they don't have it anymore at NEC.
Mm.
Now it's in, for some stupid reason, NEC decided to not sponsor it anymore,
Ah, I
which
see.
is such a shame because it was really one of the
Mm.
best things in Boston.
Mm.
Um, but now they're in Colorado, so they're still going, but they're no longer in Boston.
Ah,
Anyway,
I
so that was
see.
my first encounter with
Uh-huh.
Boston new music. I met so many great people who I still know, like Marty Epstein, for example. I met.
Mm.
She came to Davis, but then I met her again
Mm.
at that festival, or in Rose Hegley as well,
Mm.
who's a
Ah,
soprano, Bahar Rayai, all these like people who are kind of connected to the Boston scene.
I see.
Um, and uh, a few years later, like my partner Sakurako Kanemitsu, who's a pianist,
Mm-hmm.
she was interested in applying for like a postmaster's program in
Mm.
different places,
Mm-hmm.
and she applied to BU in Boston,
Mm.
and so we moved
Oh,
here sort of for that
yeah.
program. And in a way, we were really kind of looking for an excuse to have a change of scene, and to
Right.
be in a place that's really
Right.
musically rich scene. I mean, Boston, as you know, is like such a rich musical scene. There's so much
Sure.
things going on,
Mm.
both for like sort of classical music and new music. And Sakurako,
Right.
she sort of enjoys
Mhm.
both of those worlds. So it's been a very good kind of environment for us. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So now you're teaching at Berkeley. How's life at Berkeley, and what do you teach, and how was your teaching methodology to your students? I'm very
Yeah.
wondering.
Yeah, first of all, like as you probably know, like Berkeley, it's a really different school from other schools. Like
Right.
primarily jazz and pop music, but there are many people who there you can major in classical composition at Berkeley as well. So there are
Right.
students who study classical composition, and like production, singing, like all kinds of different things. Film composition, you can major in at Berkeley also. So like the classes that I teach are, I mean, I teach private composition, but I also
Mm-hmm.
teach um, mostly kind of like the core quote unquote theory
Mm.
classes, like which are like tonal harmony,
Mm-hmm.
which they take tonal harmony in addition to jazz harmony also. So I'm teaching them like, I don't teach the jazz harmony, but I teach the kind of tonal classical harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So and I teach kind of introduction to counterpoint,
Mm.
some music history classes that cover Western music. I teach a class also called Women Composers, Classic Tradition,
Oh,
and it's like a sort of overview class, but it's only women composers.
wow.
I'm really
Oh.
it's yeah, it's really fun. Beth
Yeah.
Danish and Geneviève Leclerc are two professors there who kind of like taught that class from the beginning, and they
Ah.
invited me to help out with a little bit, and they sort
Ah.
of built that class,
Nice.
and it's been a really fun experience. And
Mm.
what I love about it is like we have a lot of great discussions. It's kind of seminar style,
Mm-hmm.
but also like we listen to a lot of amazing music throughout the
Mm-hmm.
ages, and it's literally all women. So
Wow.
I think that's really cool, and
I
people are
see.
really passionate about it. They enjoy it a
Right.
lot. And then on top of that, I teach kind of the quote unquote like overview of just Western music, which of
Right.
course includes women, but like is sort of like the kind of almost classical canon.
Wow.
And like, so all these classes that I teach, I've taught introduction to composition. That was really fun
Mm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but most of these classes are uh, like emphasizing the Western music, like classical music. And
Right.
for many of the students, it's kind of some of them have background in classical music, but for most of
Mm.
them, it's a little unfamiliar, right?
Mm.
Most of them are coming from different styles. Some of
Right.
them, they don't even like just reading music notation is not like their first avenue into music. So in a way, like I'm speaking to, but they're really talented,
Mm-hmm.
students like coming from
Right.
all over the world and
Right.
really amazing at their own craft.
Right.
Um, and so it's been a really interesting experience to work with them. I learned stuff from them about
Mm-hmm.
the different genres they're in. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
always, they're usually very curious and like open-minded and just to learning a style that's because they're used to studying all these different styles that are outside of what they usually do. But it's a lot different from like conservatory type students who
Mm.
kind of like are playing Brahms and Tchaikovsky and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
but these students, they are coming at it like, oh, well, classical music, interesting. And
Mm.
so, what I do, I have like a playlist on Apple Music that I share with them that are
Mm.
like, I just tell them listen to this, like spend just 10 minutes a week listening to this music so that you have like kind of the vibe, the vocabulary in your ear
Mm.
almost.
Mm.
Um, and I think that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Playing things on the piano helps. I mean, with any group, as you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but it's actually a lot of fun. Um yeah, they take a lot of classes, so like it's a big load of teaching, like it's a big teaching load, and
Yeah.
they are really busy. We're really busy. Definitely higher than usual course load for
Yeah.
us,
Uh-huh.
but I understand why because they want them like at Berkeley they kind of are. It's like a fire hose approach where you just get all this knowledge and just they try to take in as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of them, if they remember at least kind of the most important parts, like that's a
Sure.
success.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
just to kind
Yeah.
of be well-rounded. So, in a
Right.
way, I'm jealous because like when I was an undergrad, like I don't know about you, but I never learned anything about jazz theory at all.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and like
Right.
for them, they're learning all these different styles. So like I don't know. I think that's a really interesting perspective that they're gonna have.
Yeah. Wow. That's very interesting curriculum. I mean, do you have any tips who really wants to study at Berkeley? I mean, many of Korean musicians wants to come to Boston and study at Berkeley or Boston
Yeah.
Conservatory.
Well, I will say like there are many Korean students at Berkeley and
Yeah.
it has in Boston it has like the highest level of international students
Mm,
of any school in
agree.
Boston.
Mm.
It's like 40% of the student population is international
Wow.
students.
Wow.
So when they come, they will be in very good company and have opportunity to meet with not just like American students, but like students from all over the world that
Mm.
they'll get to like meet and network with. I think the audition process is like I couldn't tell you about all of those things, but like there are satellite locations around the world where they can audition. Usually there's some kind of video element that they send. Like I actually auditioned when I was in high school for
Ah,
Berklee, and I didn't get into
I
Berklee.
see. I
But
see.
now I teach there, so
Yeah.
haha. But but I mean, yeah, I think they're really just looking. There's so many different things. It's a universe. Like there's so
Right.
many different. And the thing is also that's interesting about Berkeley that's different from other places is
Mm.
like when you start there, you don't pick your major. Everybody in their first year is undeclared,
Ah,
which
okay,
means like
nice.
of course most people they have an idea of what they want to do when they come, but
Right,
like
right.
they could change their mind,
Mm,
because there's so much. There's just it's like a whole universe. There's so many different
right,
things going on.
right.
There's something like there's actually I think there's like 1,000 faculty who teach at Berkeley,
Wow. Yeah,
which I still
yeah.
can't believe is real, but it's actually true. You can Google it.
Have you met everybody?
Oh, definitely not. People will sometimes say like, "Oh yeah, I know so and so. I know someone at Berkeley." And I'm probably not gonna know
Right.
who that is.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's really
huge.
big.
Oh, wow. Then,
Yeah.
so Berkeley has a two big a department, like a jazz department and the classical conservatory department, right? And then,
Well, yeah, sort of. It's like they have the Boston Conservatory,
uh-huh.
which is 150 years old, so it's been
Right,
around longer than Berkeley. But like
right,
10 years ago, Berkeley acquired Boston
right,
Conservatory.
right.
So Boston Conservatory is now under the umbrella of Berkeley.
Berkeley. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So most people like studying classical composition, like you can apply to Boston Conservatory.
Mm,
But I will say like there are many people studying classical composition at Berkeley. I would say like for those interested in composition,
mm-hmm.
like both schools have really great pros. There's like great advantages and
Yeah,
pros and cons to both. Like they're just
right.
really different. Like at BOCO, you get sort of more of the conservatory style
Mm-hmm.
education, and you have chances that you kind of have to make them yourself, but there are
Mm-hmm.
ways you could. I mean, they're literally across the street from each other, so they're
I see.
walkable. Your key card will work in all the
Right.
buildings. So at Berkeley, on the other hand, like you sort of take more of those. I think if you're a student at Berkeley, you're going to be exposed to a lot more different styles
Mm-hmm.
outside of classical music than you
Mm-hmm.
would at the conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
So on the other hand, at the conservatory, there's like you get more private lessons than you do at Berkeley. But at Berkeley, I would just like look at the sort of degree requirements. That
Mm-hmm.
would be my advice to people interested in composition and like think
Mm,
of what seems most appealing to you
mm-hmm.
in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
kind of like experience that you want to have. Um,
Right.
and then yeah, based on what you want to do, kind of decide.
Right. Yeah. Wow. There must be a lot of students there too.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Wow. I see. I see. So you enjoy teaching there, right?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, everywhere has its problems, of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
overall it's been a great experience.
Yeah. I think your class get increased before I first time heard, I guess, right? You had like history and theory, and then now you have more classes.
Yeah. When I first was there, like I was just teaching I was teaching the tonal harmony one, tonal harmony two, and counterpoint. Those
Ah,
are
I
kind of
see.
like the main like the in the trenches kind of
Right.
classes. Like
Ah,
teaching those are hard classes to teach, even though they're sort of like
yeah.
more like lower division classes.
Yeah.
But they're like really, yeah, just because there's so much material, as you probably
Right.
know.
Right. Right.
And but yeah, since then, like yeah, I've doing the history more and women composers more direct to study. I teach also like in the Berkeley Online division recently.
Okay.
So they've
Wow.
recently just started like a composition degree that you can get online, and it's like a different
Ah,
institution, so to speak, but they're
right.
connected.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's been really fun too,
Wow.
actually.
Wow.
Also,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm interested in, having a more information about online course too, to introduce to, new students.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share anything.
Wow. Wow, that's great. But you're, getting more busier to teach.
Yeah.
I see, I see. Wow. Anyway, I mean, you always working hard and, consistently write music and it's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the thing finding time to write again, as you probably know, having just like finished in grad school, it's like you're always just writing, right? And
Right.
like somebody told me to really cherish that because when
Mm-hmm.
you go leave grad
Mm-hmm.
school, like the demand of you to write is there's no one, there's not so many people forcing you to write, you know?
Right.
Like you have to really make sure that you make, and I, to be totally honest, I struggle with making it, carving out the time that I really should
Mm,
dedicate to it.
mm.
But yeah, it's just challenging. So
Right, right. Yeah. Awesome, awesome. This will be my um last questions for you today. Sadly. Anyway. So, looking at the trajectory of your work, what do you hope your music offers to audiences navigating our rapidly shifting world?
hmm, that's a good question. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think like over all of my work or like
Mhm.
just right now or
Um, Whichever you would like to say, and anything you may currently focus on or overall your work, I think anything's fine.
yeah. I hope that my music can give people something that they need in a
Mm,
moment, you know? Like if they need something to, if they feel like they want to like have a feeling of just things that I look for when I'm wanting to listen to music,
mm-hmm,
like feeling of discovery, or like something I haven't heard before that was interesting, or inspiration,
mm-hmm,
maybe like especially nowadays, like a feeling to sort of keep going and keep fighting,
mm-hmm,
um, peace, like just something that they feel like they needed that. Like I would hope for someone to listening to something of mine to think like that, yeah, that I feel like better than when I started. Not
mm-hmm,
necessarily happy, but just like
mm-hmm.
I feel like I gained something right now.
Right,
That was
right,
worth my time,
right,
you know.
right. I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
that's the goal, of course,
Mm,
for all of us.
yeah, that's so true. True for me too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for giving me so much inspirations and insights. And I was so glad to hear about your deeper thoughts and creative process and your life story. That's really meaningful for I think everyone who listened to you. Um, it's really meaningful for everybody.
Well,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you for some really great questions. It was really fun talking to you. Really, really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
maybe for me next season with a different topic. I'd love to have you back in any moment.
I would love that. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you so much for, time and I hope you to have a lovely night.
Yes, thanks. You too. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's early
Yeah,
for you now in
yeah,
Seoul. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.